People All right. Hey, good morning, YouTube. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Thanks for checking in. It's been a minute. We were occupied otherwise this week. Couldn't get in the different days this week, so we'll try to squeeze Friday in here, see what happens. But hey, thanks for joining us. It's been a busy week, it seems like, not just also news-wise as well. Seems to be a lot going on. We'll see what we get into here. But got some good people out there in the side chat already. Good morning, LS. How you doing? Rooster Cogburn is with us. And the Delaware Patriot has dropped in to grace us with his presence. How's it going? It's past time to get to work out there on the East Coast. What you doing in hanging out with us hoodlums? Hey, there's your weather snapshot. It looks like the hurricane has dissipated. We missed all that madness, but it hit pretty hard, it looked like. We're going to look into some of that here in a minute. But otherwise, throughout, still lots of rain coming around in different areas. I don't know which one's the remnants of the hurricane, which isn't. But the key here is there is snow coming up through the Midwest. It looks like winter is coming. Winter is here. Isn't that a TV show or something? Winter is coming. But Iowa, Kansas, South Dakota, probably Illinois get a little bit. In Michigan, snow is coming your way. So do all the winter prep we need, right? So thinking about the hurricane, check in on a little bit on it. I've obviously seen, everybody's seen off and on images at least or whatever, but it looks to have been pretty devastating. Not so much on the flooding side like the last one, but just the power of the hurricane from this one seemed to be pretty significant. So let's check in here, see what the Weather Channel had to say about that.
As a Category 4 storm on Wednesday. Thursday, Michael tore through Georgia and the Carolinas, downing trees, knocking out power to hundreds of thousands. And overnight, there were tornadoes in North Carolina and Virginia and multiple flash flood emergencies and water rescues. So far, at least 8 deaths have been attributed to the storm from Florida to Virginia. In Mexico Beach, a small beach town near Panama City, ground zero for the storm, entire blocks of homes are gone. The National Guard has rescued at least 20 people there, but officials said as many as 285 residents chose not to evacuate. And it's still unknown how many residents are missing or if anyone died there. Search and rescue missions are still underway. In Georgia, one official described the damage in Albany as unprecedented and phenomenal. The Department of Agriculture says crops and infrastructure has taken substantial losses throughout the South. More than 1.4 million homes and businesses remain without power.
All right, there's the Weather Channel perspective. There was an updated death toll, I believe, in one of these. Was it this? Yeah, in here somewhere. They were expecting more death toll from the whole thing. I don't know where they put that number. That was a little bit over 2 weeks ago, remember? But the ground's still pretty soaked. Shut up, up there. Keep him quiet. Hey, Bobby Souls Homesteads with us. How you doing, Bobby? You ride out this part of the storm a little easier than last time, or what? At least 11 deaths have been blamed, it says here. So so a little bit lower than the last time, at least at this point in the storm. Of course, when the recovery comes, they start digging out. It's when they usually find a lot of people who decided not to leave. Like you said, a lot of people wrote it out. I guess their bug-in plan is what it was. Bobby had loads of wind for this. It's all good now. All right, nice. Heart attack at 40 years old. That's pretty tough there, Bobby. Is that somebody nearby, or is that, I guess, was you think it was storm related, like just working, trying to get things secure and whatnot, or was it unrelated? I guess it can be hard to tell sometimes, I guess. But I guess here's a good image that they've done a comparison of. You've probably seen of the before and after satellite view. Let me pull this up. NOAA satellite image before and after. It looks like definitely looks like a war zone went through. That's just Mexico Beach, Florida. Pretty much stripping all the trees down and everything else, taken with it. This another storm was no joke. Another good example of how you can communicate to those people that need to know, hey, you need to prep something. Prep a good escape, or prep to stay where you are, because it's going to be bad at some day, sometime. Thousands lose power in Georgia. 350,000 homes without power on early Thursday morning. Hopefully that's been rectified by now there. Tornadoes was a big deal. I know, was it Jay Grady had tornadoes near her up in North Carolina out of this whole deal. They talked I guess as the storm came across the eastern edge of it is where they spawned a lot of the tornadoes, I guess, out of this. And obviously a lot of the flooding that came along with it. I know folks back home had lots of flooding out of it. It was no joke. Maybe even more so than the last hurricane. What was it? Florence? Florence came through? Yeah. Bobby, you lost power for 30 minutes or less, but the town's close to you, still without? Well, is that because your stuff kicked on you, or you're like still on hardline power? Are you still on the net or the grid or whatever? Your grid power came back up, or I don't know if you're just showing off your preparedness level. Your power, you kicked your power in shortly after it went out. I'm not sure what you're saying there, but small towns are still without. That's kind of, and you're kind of far removed, for them to still be without power this far out. Hey, Walter Davis is with us. Good morning. How you doing? Getting that your winter plans prepped up, Walter? There's some serious flooding. We're just Roanoke, Virginia, maybe. Yeah, Roanoke, Virginia. Man, this is way up north, considering. Oh, I can expand this, right? Yeah, there we go. This is way up. This is up almost to what do you call it? Almost up to Charlottesville. Roanoke's way up there. They're getting a ton of rain. Bad deal. So lots of flooding to be associated with this storm as well. And it looks like there's a rainstorm coming in behind it. Let's check Bob David Boland's with us. Good morning. I'm still working through my coffee as I talk about this hurricane. It seems like it affected quite a few of y'all. Yeah, Delaware, right? The nature threats are a good testing ground for everything that you might put in place. That's the one thing about where I'm at. It's like natural disasters aren't too prevalent. We don't get tornadoes. We don't get hurricanes. We get a little bit of flooding, but it's manageable for the most part because it's pretty predictable because rain goes the same place pretty much all the time. So it would take a large, like we did those big floods a couple of years ago, a 500-year event, but getting to see where that's at and knowing where you're situated and your routes of travel is good to plan all that stuff out. But yeah, earthquakes the big one out here. When the earthquake hits, we'll know how unprepared we actually are, because that's going to definitely be a kick in the pants if it's the big one, or a big one, not just the big one. All right, David Boland's going to be listening along. OS says it seems like they played Florence up. Michael's worse, right? And didn't get the hype. But it doesn't seem like the death toll's quite there with Michael yet. Maybe people heeded the warnings and left. I guess to be determined. And I guess, again, those tornadoes that were kicked off as a result of it going through might have been one of the big things that ended up killing a lot of people. HRM Weapons Machinist with us. Good morning. How you doing? Thanks for joining in. Hopefully you've ridden out any of these storms okay. Yeah, Roanoke, Williamsburg, that's all near you. You all right? Definitely getting some water up that way. So if you haven't been paying attention, otherwise, other news events, the Dow markets took a beating the last couple days, and we were talking about it Wednesday. I did a short lunchtime, and I was just saying it just kind of seems like it's kind of more like a buying opportunity for drive down the price of some stuff to get it cheap on the back end. And it looks like this morning it's all popping up. Although it was like 800 and 500 again yesterday down on the Dow, and all like S&P, NASDAQ, everything was getting just crushed. But it looks like everything's popping up this morning after everybody decided what they wanted to buy on sale, and kicking everything back up. Looks like 400 the futures are still what's listed here. It just opened like 6 minutes ago, so we won't get those updates directly until it updates some time. But there was always that prediction of what could possibly happen with there's that old Economist picture from the 80s that had the implementation of a new world currency supposed that potentially could have been foreshadowing to 2018. It's been talked about for a long time. I shared it on the G Plus, the image of it, and a lot of people have been talking about it this year. And like with all this big drop and everything, and like what kind of crisis can they set up to implement something like that? If that was their plan, would be one of the big concerns. Or let me see if I can pull that up. If anybody's not familiar. That image of the world currency on the front of the Economist from back in there, it has 2018 on the bottom of the coin around the eagle's neck there. And it's been hypothesized and stuff that that's the EU, and that was going to be the new big thing, because that's like the German eagle on the flag type of design, and there's all kinds of, obviously conspiracy around it. But we're at that time, and still awaiting, I guess you'd say. But with today's or yesterday's big drops and stuff, people have been looking back at that really hard again. And October is always the time for, if the market's going to get a kick in the pants, it seems like it's always in October. So everybody can buy their Christmas presents cheap, I guess, or something. But again, they're expecting, everything says here, it surged more than 400 at the open, regaining some of what was lost this week, which is definitely not a full recovery from where they were. But I would say, again, look at what the bond prices are doing and those interest rates. A lot of that might be a reaction to that, if it's actual legitimate correction, keeping it below that 26,000 that I've been looking at. But I don't know. I don't think it's going to go anywhere but sideways myself. I don't think there's people concerned that could be another Black Monday come Monday morning is when it could get hit hard and take it further down into a full correction territory, I guess you'd say. But yeah. Check in here on the side chat again. Dad on YouTube was checking in with us, dropped by to hang out. Thanks for checking in, Dad. Our Patriot needs more coffee. I do too. I'm barely halfway down, so I'm with you on that one. You got hammered with rain last night, very windy. Yeah, you had that, whatever happened to that big tree that you were showing, I don't know, I guess it's back in the spring maybe. They had a down limb from one of the storms and whatnot, and you were talking about some of the preparedness stuff. Like, yeah, big trees like that wouldn't last long around here. If you got a big cottonwood like that, you cut it down if it's near anything that it can land on, because those will take out everything, like power lines or lots of stuff. Like to keep those big trees cut back from anything. You trading on the cryptos there, Bobby? Yeah, I saw that they got taken down as well a little bit on that whole move, and you were able to profit, I guess you'd say, or increase your holdings, as they might say. All right, LS, have a good day. First doctor's appointment. Uh-oh. That's always scary. Was it 155-mile-an-hour winds that actually hit when it hit the coast? Right? Hey, the Farkas is with us. Is this going to be the new channel, Craig? The Farkas. Right on. I don't know if I've seen you put any videos up or not. Let me double check to see if I'm subbed to the new You Can Do It channel. I don't know if I came over and checked you out or not after you. If anybody didn't know, the You Can Do It channel got taken out. Yeah, see, I'm slacking. Sorry about that. But the You Can Do It channel got taken down because he deleted his email, we found out. But so he's making a new channel here. Go check him out at The Farkas. Looks like he's going to get that started. Got an entry video ready to go. All right, on. So the Dow is making its play moves. But it's definitely something I'm going to keep an eye on because it definitely can foretell future issues, even though it might not affect us directly. Depending on how much exposure you have through 401k, IRA, all that other stuff really depends upon how much interest really put into it. But it can have further implications. There's the sparring going back between the president and criticizing the Fed about its policies and stuff on the interest rate side, because he knows that it's not going to look good on him if if the market, if the economy slows down under his watch. It's not good for his reelection potential. But some places are trying to play it up that there's this conflict that Trump's trying to put the Fed in check or something. I don't know. I just don't see it. He's been involved with finance for far too long to not understand how the situation with how the Fed manipulates things and everything. But I guess he's had a war of words, and he's been accusing the Fed of being a lot of the problems with the market, which is true. I mean, raising the rates is going to have this effect. But he should know, too, that you can't let the market just run crazy. It's going to go either hyperinflation or crash off the low interest rates, one or the other, or just bog down and slow down, which he doesn't want that either. It's a mess, and he's trying to act like he doesn't like it's him trying to fight back against the Fed. I don't necessarily believe that at all. But the Zero Hedge shared this article here about him criticizing the Fed and their interest rate raising practices. And this is via the institutionalriskanalyst.com, the author Chris Whalen. It's a hot take, I guess I'd say. It says here, but while the economists' love cult and the big media may take umbrage at President Trump's critique of the central bank, in fact, Trump is dead right. Well, is he dead right or dead wrong? Because, again, the Fed could do nothing, but that would just cause hyperinflation in the big picture. But it makes it harder for him to borrow money, too, when the Fed raises rates like that. The government has to pay more for what they borrow and the debt they get our future generations into is going to cost more. But you could say it's political games because they didn't do it when Obama was in, but it's just that, games. And he should know the game. Farkas's pot stock's up 38%. Right on. Midwest Preppers with us. Good morning. How you doing? Thanks for checking in. Usually only catch it on the rewind. Thanks for coming in. So this guy's premise is that Trump is fighting back against the Fed, I think. Says first, the Fed's actions in terms of buying $4 trillion in Treasury debt and mortgage paper has badly crippled the value of the fixed income market as a measure of risk. The Treasury yield curve will no longer accurately describe the term structure. Oh, goodness, they're going to get into technical terms here. I don't know if I want to get down this road. But this means the Treasury yield curve is useless as an indicator for or guide for policy. Nobody at the Federal Reserve Board understands this issue or cares. So that's probably true. Second, Operation Twist further manipulated and distorted the Treasury market. True. By selling short-term paper and buying long-dated securities, the Fed suppressed long-term interest rates. Yeah, it's all true. They suppressed it for so long that they had to do something eventually, but it's just been more painful in the end. The Treasury should be well over 4% by now, like he says, but instead it's 3%, and change will probably rally to test 3% between now and the end of the year. Third, is the real issue bothering President Trump, even if he cannot find the precise words, namely liquidity. We have the illusion of liquidity in the financial markets today, meaning money moving around. Sell-side firms are prohibited by Dodd-Frank and the Volcker rule from deploying capital in the cash, equity, and debt markets. All bank portfolios are now passive. No trading, no market making. There's nobody catch the falling knife. Nobody can rush in there and save the day, presumably. If the market was to like have a huge crash, nobody would rush in there to buy stuff cheap in those financial markets like he's talking about because of those rules. The only credit being extended today in the short-term markets is with collateral. There's no longer any unsecured lending between banks and especially non-banks. Well, that actually would be a good thing, right? Unsecured lending is disastrous. Everybody's got to put a little skin in the game, right? You would expect. Unsecured lending is just that, unsecure. But as they noted earlier in the week, institutional risk analysts, there are scores of non-bank lenders in mortgages, autos, and consumer unsecured lending that are ready to go belly up. Half of the non-bank mortgage lenders in the U.S. are in default on their bank credit lines. As in 2007, the model builders at the Fed in Washington have no idea, nor do they care to hear outside opinions. So let me read that real quick again myself. Scores of non-bank lenders ready to go belly up. Okay. So yeah, the Fed's, all the actions are going to cause some sort of bad crisis. I think we could all agree on that. But the president's recommendations that the Fed not do what they're doing is not going to slow or stop anything either. Just delay it so he can get through his 2 terms, kick the can down the road a little bit further. Somebody else can eat the bullet, I guess would be the way to look at it. So it goes on. If you understand that the Fed's previous extraordinary policy actions have the effect of understating LT interest rates, long-term interest rates, understating long-term interest rates by at least a percentage point, then you know why President Trump is howling like a wounded hound. Nobody understands the danger of leverage better than a real estate developer. Oh, no doubt. He understands the leverage game. So he should understand that. But it's more about, he doesn't want to be the one to take the bullet. He wants to pass it on to the next guy. It's all about delaying the pain. When you see the dislocation and distress visible to those with eyes wide open in the non-bank residential and especially multifamily mortgage sectors, then you know why President Trump is rebuking the Federal Reserve. I guess you could say profit from it himself. I guess if you're looking at it that way, as a real estate developer, he wants to profit from it until he has to pay for it later. Bottom line, we fully expect to see some business failures in the residential lending and multifamily development sectors over the next 12 months. The real estate markets are overextended. All this is definitely probably true based upon what we've been viewing. Asset prices are silly, and the only way forward for debt and equity valuations is lower. More important is the real rate for the 10-year bond is over 4%. Then where should the Dow and S&P be tomorrow at the opening? By raising short-term interest rates instead of unwinding QE2 and 3 and Operation Twist, the Fed is repeating the mistakes of 1928 and creating the circumstances for the liquidity crisis. But they can't unwind it, McTwist and QE2 and 3 without similar deflationary, crash, I guess you'd say. They're caught in a catch-22. They could unwind QEs and McTwist, but at their own prevail as well. They're stuck between a rock and a hard place. We all are. That's the pain of the financial crash that everybody's been worried about. So that's a perspective. Everybody's been trying to give the president props for calm to make himself feel good, I think, because again, it's inevitable that you have to raise rates to put a check on some of the craziness. Like you talked about the liquidity issue. If you make it more liquid, you're just causing more inflation. I mean, have gas prices ever been this high going into the wintertime? That's a concern. You want to see $4 gas in December? That's not going to be fun. On and on. All the inflationary signs out there that is going to have an effect on our bottom line. It's not so much the market stuff. And then you talk about the real estate markets cooling off, I guess. We're at record highs. Like, there's got to be some check on that inflationary market like that, but they don't want that check because inflation always benefits the banks. And while a crash doesn't benefit anybody, it restores a little bit of evens the playing field, I guess you could say, if you will. But that was interesting. What else is going on out there in the world? We got a few more minutes here. But that hurricane and the Fed and the interest in the markets have been the kind of the biggest thing on the radar this week. I was trying to watch the market stuff and talked a little bit about it Wednesday, but yeah, that the 10-year yield riding up there still. Farkas says he invested only $500 in his pot stock, still not rich. It's hard being a little man. It's hard to build that with such little pool to start with. It's not like you start with the $5 million to start with. You can roll that over a couple $100,000 profit pretty quick. Hey, Farkas, do you follow Gregory Mannarino? Greg does what's the name of his Trader's Choice, his Trader's Choice website. He's really good. He puts out free stock advice and he shows what he's doing. He's a short the market type guy, although he plays long stuff, but he follows the market as it's rigged, and he's just trying to profit off of the rigging while he can. That might be a good guy to check out. But it's Gregory Mannarino. He's on my G+. I share a lot of his stuff, but he's also here on the YouTube as Gregory Mannarino. He does a lot of good, he does before and after stock market stuff, and he just kind of puts it out there. But his website's Trader's Choice. Is it .com or .net, or I can't remember. Let me go to, he's on my G Plus though. Let me pull up something. Yeah, Craig, let me see if I can get you a link here. He's a good guy to follow if you're trying to play the market and just make cash, if you're into that. But he's definitely playing it from the viewpoint of it's rigged and I'm just going to get money where you can and get out type deal. Let's see. I share a lot of his stuff on the daily in the last couple of days. Hey, good morning, Alicia. How you doing? Another victim of channel deletion. Alicia Clegg there is now the Toxic Threads channel. I don't know if she's going to change her channel name soon, but let's see. Let me get this pulled over here. Let me get a link. And Greg's probably got a video out this morning already, I would bet. He started doing live streams lately and answering questions on live streams too. TradersChoice.net is his website. That's the you go there, he has a bunch of the market stuff. Well, that didn't work out. Let's see, does this go through? No, that's terrible. Terrible. Don't use that link. That looks terrible. Let me get a clean link here. But he's on YouTube as just Gregory Mannarino, Mannarino. Are you on the G Plus, Farkas? I don't think I'm following you, obviously, on G Plus, because I wasn't following you on. Doesn't look like you're on the G Plus. They don't require it anymore, do they? Now they're getting rid of G Plus, so never mind. That doesn't help. I heard that story. They're axing the G Plus soon, so that's one less place to pile together and conspire and share ideas and stuff. So he hasn't done one this morning, but he does usually 2 a day, depending on what's going on or what he's doing. But you can follow that TradersChoice.net. He puts his videos on there. He's got a lot of the stuff, and his stuff is over here on some of the stuff he's buying and selling and everything, and he explains a lot of it. I don't get into that. I don't have any money in the market, but it's interesting to follow, I guess I would say. Keep an eye out on what's going on. So he keeps me informed on the market side, just so I can see the train coming, I guess. And he's actually out of Vegas too, so follow him for that reason as well. So what else is going on out there in everybody's world? Did I miss anybody's comments here? Seems like the hurricane took up a lot of people's time and impacted a lot of people out there. I did have one story on the Venezuela. This is another example of what to expect when the slow collapse happens. You lose the specialist in the economy. The example here is you're going to lose the doctors and the specialists that go along with treating people, which of course is going to have an effect on disease and everything else, but and people's health. But the story here, more than half of Venezuela's doctors immigrated since 2012. That's via the non-governmental organizations said that. I did that video on the slow burn years ago, just talking about how when the slowly collapse happens, you're going to lose all that specialization in the economy, people that are well trained in their crafts. And when you have a place like Venezuela where people can run, they're going to run. And the doctors are an example of that, not only for monetary reasons, but probably for safety reasons. But imagine losing half the doctors we have in the country. That'd be, I mean, fairly catastrophic, I guess you could say. 22,000 doctors migrated. That's 55% of the total of 39,000 that are registered with the health organization in 2014. Some 6,000 nurses, that's nearly a quarter of Venezuela's nursing profession, also left the country during the same period. And that goes with our, nearly 2 million people have left the country since 2015. So I guess it matches kind of is it proportional to the number that have left overall? Maybe that would have a less of effect because you got people leaving along with them. So there's fewer doctors to treat fewer people, I guess you could say. So they're framing this now as also a health crisis, a humanitarian emergency based upon the NGO report. Which the bad thing of that is they're going to try to bring in all these other NGOs, which can have negative effects. Anything with the United Nations, we know how bad that can go with the way they treat people when they go places. I would imagine Doctors Without Borders is already there. They're a good group to hopefully help. But UN last week announced $32 million donation to reduce maternal and infant mortality and protect children, in addition to donating 30 tons of health supplies. I wonder how misallocated those will be. I wonder who they go to. We know how that goes in some of these countries. You donate, all these donations end up in somebody's back alley in their garage of the wealthy a lot of times. Hey, Jay Sparks, what's going on? Good morning. How you doing? Fake ass markets, right? Nah, man. Trump just says they're after him. Didn't you hear Jay Sparks? The man's after him. Okay, Farkas, you don't do any other social media? It's all good. I just throwing it out there. I do a lot on Twitter. Twitter's fun. So I just found that as an interesting story tying into the SHTF collapse scenario, what to expect, what to keep an eye on when you think things are going to go bad. And not only would you lose people leaving, but fewer people getting trained, fewer people going into those professions for various reasons. Vegan. Why are you talking about MREs there? Weapons machinists. HRM talking about vegan MREs. Goodness. Talk about a bad news headline. But what's on the Drudge this morning? There's some of the pictures out of Florida up here. Obviously, a lot of the hurricane stuff's going to be on the Drudge on the very top. Sign of the apocalypse. Oh, there we go. Robot can now leap stairs. Yeah. Time to shoot them when you get a chance. Skynet is coming. Boston Dynamics continuing to try to destroy humanity. It's an InfoWars link that never helps anybody's credibility. Atlas robot can now leap upstairs. Yeah. trying to kill ourselves. Probably the only species that tries to do so by creating other. Atlas does parkour, the YouTube video's description says. Oh man, we're dooming ourselves. And people want to joke about it like is this the Boston Dynamics channel? Yeah, it looks like it. All proud of themselves, like they're yeah, this is Boston Dynamics. Parkour Atlas. It's from October 11th. They just posted it. Awesome. That's really awesome, right? Oh man. And people don't see the irony of it or think anything of it. Like it's not gonna, when they go self-aware, as they say, like that'll never happen, right? Oh man. What else is going on out there? I saw some articles this week. I guess some of the Tommy Robinson cases are coming up in England or something. There's a couple of interviews with him with his cases or something. I didn't get to follow most of it, but I guess the Brexit thing is coming to a head as well, with the politicians showing they're really not going to do the will of the people. I'm fairly convinced they're going to let the Brexit day go by and they're just going to kind of continue operating and see what the people do. That could get, I don't know. I don't know if it could get ugly or not. I don't know if the British have it in them to do anything other than cry about it if it does happen that way. But it seems to be going in that direction where they're not putting the things in place to be an independent country, and they're just going to let it roll with the EU and see if the people really mean what they say. There was the Antifa protest in Portland. If you missed that, I saw those highlights from something they were protesting this week. I guess there was some incident and the Portland police had maybe shot somebody. Maybe that's what it was. But Antifa showed up and they were trying to direct traffic for people. They were trying to take charge of the streets. They were throwing human excrement on people, on reporters, even people that were just filming and talking about it, not necessarily counter protesters. Making a real good name for themselves. But that's occupied territory, obviously. Portland, West Coast areas. Don't go unless you really have a need. Fourth Dimension over there, ACAS was talking a lot about that stuff. He did a couple of good videos this week about some stuff that was pretty good. Check in on the side chat. They nearly perfected Skynet's. Atlas is the enforcer, you say, RHRM? It seems to look like we're going that direction, doesn't it? Farkas won't let your wife invest in robotics. Yeah, contributing to your own demise seems like a bad strategy, right? They got heaters. You talking about the MREs, HRM? Oh, were you bringing them up because it was so cold for Delaware Patriot? He can break out the MRE heaters, keep warm. That doesn't last long though. Alicia wonders what's going to happen in Europe. You mean other than the invasion and the undermining of all European culture? I don't know. It's hard to say. I think that's just the powerful maintaining control by bringing in the third worlders so they can keep the natives in check and continue to manipulate things. Like I said, with this Brexit thing, when they don't let it happen, that's going to be a big tell on what the Europeans will actually tolerate from their rulers. We shall see. That's going to be a big one if the British let the Parliament and the prime ministers and everybody else just maintain status quo when they were directed to form a Brexit of some sort, and they haven't done anything. Savage Survival, good morning. Thanks for coming into the chat. What's going on? Everyone keeps saying they wish they would come here and do it, yet nothing ever gets done. Are you talking about the Antifa types? Nobody wants to go to jail? Right. Nobody wants to confront the issue. And that's kind of been my hypothesis since for I don't know how long now. The issue is that if there's any conflict between the Antifa types and those that oppose them, call them conservatives, patriots, whatever group you want to call it, the issue is that the police state is what's going to crush all of them together. There's not going to be a differentiation of a good side and bad side from the state. The state's going to grow in power and crush it all. That's my concern, or that's my thesis, at least, on how that's going to play out. Just a second, folks. I'll mute this. Be right back. All right, what did I miss? The MREs handed out to survivors had heaters. So are you directing Delaware Patriot to confiscate all MRE heaters to keep warm? I'm not sure what your angle is there, HRM. See what the market's at before we check out of here. Refresh that. See if we're up to 500, 600 up. What? See how they play it up. Still more than almost 300, showing 266 on the top ticker. But thanks for coming in, everybody. Yeah, right, Alicia. Hate the use Antifa, the useful idiots to help usher in the police state. Well, they want more state control. They just don't realize it's not going to be the type of control they, ushering in 1984 is probably not what they were expecting. They were expecting a kinder, gentler government, right? All right. Savage Survival, thanks for checking in. 16 days. All right. Good luck. Good luck. Hope that works out well. Any day now, I guess, would be the if you're 16 days out, it could be any day now, the way kids work. Don't plan any vacations or any excursions. All right, the Farkas is with us. Thanks for checking in. HRM Weapons Machinist. He says he believes they already have Skynet wired. to a Surface tablet to run a war. I don't know if you could do it from a Surface tablet. I think you'd have to be hardwired to the net. I don't think they would need to be. Skynet would be its own server. I think that would be the way it would roll. HRM, stand in line, get an MRE, eat what you get. Well, we didn't even stand in line. We just toss them out there. You get what you get. All right. Hey, everybody have a good day. Alicia, thanks for checking in. Bobby Solar Homestead, Midwest Prepper was with us. Jay Sparks, Delaware Patriot. Everybody, thanks for coming and hanging out. Hope everybody has a good weekend if we don't talk to you on the interwebs here. And we will see you all later. Have a good one. Live free.